All right, we should be live. Hey, everybody. Silverback here with my co host Josh Benware on another episode of Let's Talk Bananas. And we got two very special guests with us tonight. We got Jordan Stein from the Gun Owners of America and the president of the Virginia Citizens Defense League, Phillip Van Cleave. So if you have any 2A questions that these guys can answer for you, go ahead and ask them. Feel free to ask them. Virginia Citizens Defense League, Phillip Van Cleave. Do you have any two? All right. And a little feedback here. So yeah, if you have any 2A questions, anything you guys want to ask these fine gentlemen, feel free to ask. Hopefully I can get up there and catch the comments in time to ask them these questions. So let's start with Phillip. Let's tell everybody a little bit about yourself and the Virginia Citizens Defense League, if you would, please.
I think his camera's out.
Yeah, I think he froze up. All right, well, then we'll go to Jordan.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Stein. I'm the communications director for Gun Owners of America. And if you don't know what GOA is or you've never heard of us, well, then we can be summed up in two words: no compromise, right? We take a very firm, no compromise stance into the state capitals and the halls of Congress, letting lawmakers know that you do not infringe upon the Second Amendment. And that's what we're about. And we believe, we oppose all forms of gun control, whether that's a background check or, a permit to carry a gun or anything like that. And we truly believe in the word shall not be infringed, and we try to champion that as best we can. We're really been growing recently. We have over 2 million members and supporters, which is fantastic, and it's been growing. And it's just a really good pleasure to work for GOA. Everyone, a lot of people are familiar with Eric Pratt, our executive director, and every time I walk into his office, I just learn something new about the Constitution. So I'm lucky to be working my dream job at GOA, and I love what I do, and I love who I work for. So it's a pleasure to be on.
Right on, and we thank you for coming on. It's a great opportunity here. It looks like we got Phillip back.
Yeah, everything just died. It went south.
All right. Again, everybody, this is Phillip Van Cleave. He's the president of the Virginia Citizens Defense League. Phillip, if we can get you to just tell us a little bit about yourself and the Virginia Citizens Defense League so everybody can be familiar with you.
Okay, all right. Well, if you've got a concealed handgun permit in your possession, you can thank us back in 1994. That's when we formed to make sure that permits were on a shall issue basis. It was bad enough that you had to get a permit. If you're going to do it, there you go. If you're going to do it, then it should be equitable that anybody that's not a criminal should be able to get one easily. So we did that. A lot of the gun laws that have the good stuff that's happened in Virginia have been due to things that we've done, like got rid of local gun control. In 2004, we wiped it all out except for hunting and shooting restrictions, things like that. We're also a watchdog. So if a locality is breaking the law, they're not allowing guns in a library, whatever it is, we get involved in that, and we educate our members. So we're an extremely active group. We're right on top of it. We lobby during January, February, and March to make sure our rights get bills put in. So we do all of that. And I've been the president since 2001.
Right on. Yeah, I know how active you guys are because I get the emails every day. So I'm a very proud member, and I'm glad to be a member of the Virginia Citizens Defense League and the Gun Owners of America as well. You guys are definitely two of the best groups I've seen out there that stay the most active and actually accomplish what you set out to accomplish. So I guess if that's it, Josh, you said you had a question or two, maybe?
Take it off mute. I just had one thing I wanted to bring up, and actually wanted to ask Jordan, because I saw on Facebook, the GOA's website, they were talking about HB1 in Texas, and something hidden about gun control or something about. And I looked all over the internet. I was trying to look up HB1 in Texas everywhere and found nothing. Like it's like it's completely blank on the internet when you look that up. It's like they've hidden it or something. And I'm trying to find out what is this hidden bill in there that has to do with gun control. And I can't find it at all. So I didn't know if Jordan, if you knew anything about that. I saw a post, but I just couldn't find any information on it. And I was curious about that, actually.
So this is a Texas bill?
Yes, HB.
All right. So we actually have a Texas director, Rachel Malone, and she could give you every finite detail about the bill and what the situation is. However, what I believe you're referring to is, I believe HB1 is like the spending bill in the Texas House. And what they did at last minute, I believe they added $1 million worth of gun control in the form of a public campaign about gun safety and safe storage and everything like that. And they snuck it in that, and that's passed out of the legislature. So we're actually appealing to Abbott to veto that section because he has line item veto. So we're going to him to try to snuff that out. But yeah, it was kind of a last minute thing that the Republicans, because they're in control down there, they snuck in I guess to try to feel good about themselves to do something about guns or shootings or whatever, while the constitutional carry bill just languished all session long down there. Such a shame. But yeah, I believe that is what you're referring to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I saw. The only thing I could find, because you look page after page and it says no information on Google. And finally I found something, and it says something like 9 million or 9 billion for funding for schools and then 3 billion for this. But it would not, but it kept it very simple. It wouldn't give you any details on what the bills were. And I was like, man, this is pretty bad when you can't find out what they're passing, what it's about, when Google has no information. It's like it's not public information on what we're passing and stuff. It's crazy. I mean, I don't know. It makes me sick that you don't know, that we can't find out what's going on. And do you have any good resources where people can go to find out whatever bill they want to find out about in detail? Do you know of any places like that where you can where everybody can just go and find it, find information?
I would encourage folks to sign up for our email alerts. They're going to keep you very well informed on bills that are actually moving in Congress and to the states. So I would encourage people to sign up for that, especially at the federal level. There's things we're going for. I know VCDL, I'm on their email list as well. It's very informative, and so that's what I would do, especially on gun bills, especially gun bills that are moving, because in many states and in Congress, gun bills are introduced, but they don't go anywhere. In fact, most bills that are introduced don't go anywhere, which is a good thing. But sometimes the gun community freaks out when an assault weapons bill is introduced, but we know it's not going to go anywhere. So at GOA, we try to focus our resources on legislation that we believe is actually going to move and is actually a threat. So that's what I encourage folks to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that in Virginia, we're seeing some of the same things he was talking about in Texas, where the Republicans will help us fight off the bad gun bills. And indeed, we killed every single one of them again this year. And there were lots of them, too. It was like 40 of them or something we killed. But moving the ball forward has been a real battle. The Republicans don't really want to push all that hard. So moving, and the ball needs to go forward. It's slid a long way over the last 200 years. We need to get that ball moved back up, restoring our right. It's not getting anything new. We're just restoring where we should have been, where our founding fathers want us. And it's a battle to do that. And I'm not surprised that it's hard to find things that are going on, and burying something in an expending bill like that. Boy, they can have so many amendments. But it's sad, but you really have to keep your eyes open and on the ball, because otherwise things will slip by. And that's why I'm glad we've got so many activists. I got a lot of people out there when these bills start moving. They got a lot of eyes out there watching different directions, because sometimes something will come up from a direction that I wouldn't be expecting. Some bill that would seem innocuous to have nothing to do with guns could end up having something to do with guns. And so we need to be there to catch those little traps.
Yep.
All right. Well, we already got a couple questions out there. The first question, and Jordan and I were talking a little bit on this earlier, and Phillip, because this is kind of hits close to home for the two of us here. Jordan, I believe you live in Virginia as well, right?
Yes.
Was the shooting at the Municipal Center down in Virginia Beach. And there's kind of two questions, and they kind of go both hand in hand because the guy used a suppressor. Also, is there any other news on the Hearing Protection Act that's abound as well?
So you want me to comment on the shooting?
Yeah, let's talk about the shooting a little bit.
Okay. Well,
the suppressor.
Anytime life is taken like that is tragic, and my heart breaks for everyone involved and their families and everything. But what's also sad is what I have seen reported is, and Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this was another gun-free zone where the employees couldn't carry guns, and so this guy sadly went in there and did a lot of evil. So how GOA would respond to that is, let's end gun-free zones and let's end barriers to people carrying guns and passing things like constitutional carry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're on the same page with that.
Yep.
Indeed, actually, a citizen that was just visiting could actually carry a gun in there, but that was a building where that didn't much happen at all. It was mostly loaded with employees. If you were a contractor, which is what happened to one person was a contractor, he happened to be going in there. In theory, he could have been carrying. But what were the odds if you only got one or two citizens? Yeah, they completely stopped their employees from being able to carry. And by the way, Bedford County allows their employees to carry. So some localities have gotten the message. And this would have been a lot less likely to have happened in Bedford County than it would have out there. Gun-free zones are dangerous. And of course, they're going to call for more of them. It's like, you eat something that makes you sick, so you think if you eat more of it, you won't get sick. It doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the other side. So we're concerned about this, and obviously the bad guys are going to do what bad guys do. And the best thing we can do to prevent all this is to arm as many people as want to be armed, as many who want to get the training, want to do this stuff. That in itself, they worry so much about, they got to have all kinds of extensive training. I argue, no, they don't. The factor in there is a deterrence. It's like if the guy was about to go in the door and thinking, I'm going to shoot this place up, and he goes, wait a minute, I know at least 7 or 8 people in there are carrying guns. Maybe I'll go do something else today. And then those other people wouldn't even need the training. Just knowing that you're walking into an area where you don't know where all the guns are should be enough to deter an attack.
Yep, I agree. And from what I had seen reported, is he purchased his guns legally, which means he passed the NICS background checks and he passed Virginia's background checks. And if he had a suppressor, a lawfully registered suppressor, then it was, 1, registered, 2, took months of paperwork and very intrusive background checks and a long waiting period and process to acquire that suppressor. So some of the most strongest gun controls we have in this country totally failed. Background checks don't work, gun-free zones don't work. Let's let people carry guns. And protect ourselves.
The suppressor. We keep hearing people that don't know anything about guns are forever saying, that would muffle the gunshot. Nobody would hear it. Well, the whole point was he was going around shooting people with a suppressor, and what was everybody talking about? All the gunshots they heard. Yeah. Yes, because anybody here that shot with a suppressor, especially on something like a .45 caliber handgun, that the gun is very audible. It's just low enough in volume to not harm your hearing, but it went off. It's absolutely like somebody screaming in your ear.
Yes.
So, that's another thing, another point that we need to emphasize, that the suppressor really, I don't know what it bought him except maybe not hurting his hearing before he got shot to death by the police. So I don't know.
Well, the other thing is he was employed by the city of Virginia Beach for a very long time. So I heard that, this is just speculation because they really aren't coming out with all the information on this, that he was let go the day prior to this incident happening, or the day before this incident happening. And that the other thing was, when I was watching another news report on it, all they kept on talking about, they didn't really speak so much of the suppressor. They mentioned it once, but they kept on talking about extended magazines. Now, being that they tried to drive that point home that he had these extended magazines with his 45 caliber handgun, do you think that might become an issue in Virginia, or maybe a tool for them to ban high capacity magazines?
Well, they tried this year. They tried last year. They tried the year before. They tried the year before that. One of the things I would remind them is, after the Virginia Tech shooting, which was done with a handgun, they had two handguns, but one, my understanding, was the .22 he shot in the air to get everybody to panic, and then he took his time and shot them with the 9mm. Was that at the actual committee that met to study that, the commission, they're in their results, they said, it would not have mattered if he'd had a higher capacity magazine than the 10 rounds. It wouldn't have made any difference in this case. So that was one of the committees that looked at Virginia Tech. And they're right. There's a video out there of a sheriff that set up this scenario with a civilian and with one of his officers, and they had both 10-round magazines and 15 round magazines, and they did timing on how quickly they could shoot into a target. And the times were almost dead on. I mean, it might have been a split second longer, but when you change those magazines, you get flowing in it. The 15 round doesn't really buy you a big deal of time for somebody to come after you. And if they got a gun, if you've got a gun to protect yourself, then it doesn't matter what size magazine they got.
But I don't want the government telling me that I can only defend myself with 10 rounds. I carry this magazine as my spare mag every day. It has 17 rounds. And, I don't know how many people are going to attack me. I don't know if they're going to be under the influence of something. And I want the freedom to choose for myself how I want to defend myself.
Right. Nobody has ever said, I had too much ammunition. Never happened.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever heard that either.
And then you get that the common thought, a lot of people saying, well, most gunfights are 3 rounds and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, maybe a lot of the time, but one of our clients for Texas U.S. Law Shield down here in the Valley, he was dating some girl that used to date some crazy biker. That dude broke into their house with a shotgun. Luckily, he had birdshot in there and shot our client from across the room. Most of it hit his belt buckle and hit him in the stomach. And our client emptied a full mag on him and reloaded and emptied another full mag on him before the guy finally went down. So it's like, you could say 3 rounds and you can say 3 yards and all that stuff. But really, in reality, it's like there's no limit. There's nothing set in stone on what level or how much you need and all that stuff, or what distance and all that good stuff.
You're getting a point of what came up in that famous shooting in Florida with the FBI.
Yeah.
If somebody's high on drugs, or you've got just a determined person who's given up their life and decided they're going to die fighting, yeah, you can even get them in a shot to the lungs or to the heart, and they can still function for another 10, 15 seconds. They have plenty of time to put a knife in you.
Yeah.
That's where a shot to the head, shutting off the computer, will usually put an end to that. But you cannot predict how many rounds you're going to need. You simply cannot. And nowadays, you hear about these attacks like they had the one up in, what was it, Minnesota, where a whole bunch of people were going around hitting people with clubs or whatever up at a train station or something. It was a mob. What happens in that case? How many rounds do you need to stop a mob?
Yeah.
Yeah, more people coming at you. You're definitely going to need more rounds.
Hopefully, if you drop over dead, the rest will get the message, but you can't count on that.
There was a question out there from Daniel, God is my judge. He wanted to know if anybody knew what the shooter's political background was. I mean, living in Virginia, I mean, it is a blue state for the most part. So it's hard to say what his political background was. We do know that he was an African American gentleman, which doesn't fit their narrative. So uh, who knows if this will be something that is just reported on over the next couple days and then is completely forgotten about, or if it'll stir up some other kind of something out there.
Knowing the media, if he's a Republican, we'll hear about it right away, and if he's a Democrat, we won't hear about it.
Yeah, and nobody has stated whether he's a Democrat or a Republican in any reports I've seen yet. So,
but regardless of his political affiliation or race, at least to me, it's evil, and I want to be able to protect, my loved ones, the people around me, the people I'm in a restaurant with eating dinner. I want to protect those people. So I don't care. It's evil. Evil exists in this world, sadly, and we need to be able to protect ourselves from that.
I think where the question was kind of going was the fact that it seems like an extraordinary number of these murderers like this tend to have a left-leaning political thing. I mean, it just seems to be a pattern. And that doesn't mean it's in this case. It certainly doesn't mean that people on the other spectrum aren't doing stuff. But for people that seem to be so against guns, there seem to be a lot of them using guns to do bad things. And I don't know why that is, but there it is. It just seems to be the case.
It's just a tool like any other tool out there. I mean, when it comes to the media and the left, they always use this phrase gun violence, okay, which really doesn't make much sense because they don't say knife violence or car violence or baseball bat violence. I mean, if it's gun violence, that means the gun is actually creating the act of the violence. And I don't see that happening. So, I'm not understanding, why they come out with these terms. They
want to vilify those guns. They want to take it away. It's easy to take it away if it's a gun. You're not affecting a human being. So they try to. It's odd. They try to humanize something, some way to imply that it's all part of the game plan. I think. I've been telling our members. I don't think it's coincidence they're pushing socialism so hard right now. At the same time, the same people that are pushing socialism are pushing gun control. Well, a socialist country and gun rights are not going to mix. An armed populace isn't going to put up with what a socialist government's going to do to them.
No, and look what's happening down in Venezuela right now. Because those people are disarmed, now they're being completely overrun by the Venezuelan military and the government down there. And now they're actually fighting back because, they realized, hey, this idea y'all had isn't working and it isn't good for our country.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so Uncle Mike had a pretty good question. Let me see if I can find it. He said, on the topic of restricting magazine capacity as a tool to prevent violence, why is a lesser magazine safer? At that point, we're arguing about how many deaths are in an acceptable loss.
Yeah, it's just a number. You see, they want to keep reducing the number. So right now, because we have 10 fingers, 10's the magic number. If we had 7, I would argue that 7 would be the magic number that we would have. They're not counting our toes. We'd be in better shape. But the idea is to get it down to 1 eventually. Say, well, why do you need 5 shots? Why do you need that many? 1 should do, and then 0. So it's a slow progression. There's no logic here. Please don't look for logic in gun control. It's all about
You're exactly right. All right. So now to get back to the question about the Hearing Protection Act, how is that moving along? Is there anything progressing in that area?
Sadly, when Nancy Pelosi took over control of the House, the chances of getting any type of pro-gun legislation passed went down significantly. And of course, they have passed universal background checks out of the House. They've passed another background check expansion bill. But however, the battle that we're fighting right now, that we believe sadly, is a greater threat, at least politically right now, than the universal background checks and the other bill, is what they snuck into 1585, which is their Violence Against Women Act. And that's a bill that old Uncle Joe passed back when he was in Congress, and it has to be reauthorized every few years. And this year, Nancy Pelosi decided to sneak red flag style legislation into that bill. Any dating partner or former dating partner can essentially, have a red flag and take someone's guns away. So we actually like to refer to the bill as the Disarm Women Act, because an ex-stalker boyfriend or someone can actually use that legislation to have his ex's guns taken away, and the lady can't defend herself, and then he's free to do his evil acts. And so this bill actually harms women because of that, and we're fighting it. And sadly, red flags has been the issue that some Republicans actually like. I mean, Rubio has introduced a red flag bill. Graham has had his hearing a few months ago on red flags. Sadly, Trump has stated, he wants to take the guns first and due process later. Sadly, this is right now the battle we're having to fight. We're trying to kill that legislation in the Senate. We had a whole coalition letter of different groups, signing on to oppose it. So it's the battle right now, and at least legislatively, it's a greater threat in our view than universal background checks or the other bill of actually becoming law.
I would say in Virginia, we're really pushing down on red flag laws. We have a website set up. We're spending $21,000 on ads that'll be running for the next 3 months, trying to educate anybody 18 years or older, whether you're a gun owner or not. The red flag laws destroy the Second, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and even the Seventh Amendments. They go in there and take away the protections against having your property seized, being able to confront your accuser, your Second Amendment rights, all of that. And as Jordan pointed out, yes, the Republicans, some of them are falling for this. This is why this is a very serious threat. And when your guns get taken away, it's up to a judge if you get them back. And a judge might say, why should I take a chance? Because, you have to prove to the judge, and I don't know how you do this. Nobody's told me this. How do you prove to the judge you're not dangerous? How do you do that? Especially when some people would say, well, you're a gun owner. You're dangerous by default. How do you prove it? And as long as you can't prove it to whatever makes the judge happy, he can say, nope, another year, another year, another year. So this is dangerous. And the other side thinks they can slip it through like they did the assault weapon ban back in 94. But we're not. We're organized. Gun owners are organized now like we weren't in 94. We're doing this kind of stuff, getting the word out.
Yeah.
So we stand a much better chance, Jordan.
Absolutely. And red flag laws, sadly, have also turned out to be deadly. Yeah. Our neighbors in Maryland, a gun owner who was never convicted of a crime, got a knock on the door at 5 a.m. in the morning, and he did what I would do in that scenario: come to the door with a gun. And a altercation with the police occurred, and ultimately he lost his life because they were serving what we call a gun confiscation order, and he never was convicted of crime. And later on, his family said, he was a calm, quiet gentleman. It's just a shame that this happened. So it's literal gun confiscation, and it's a danger. And Republicans should certainly back away from supporting it because it has dire consequences.
Well, what they found out in Maryland was that I think it was the first few months they did this, 2/3 of the requests were turned down because they turned out to be frivolous. Somebody trying to get even with somebody else, but they only have to miss a few to end up with either police officers being killed or the citizen. It can happen either way. You don't know who's kicking you. If they kick your door in, you don't know who the hell that is. You're not going to stand there forever waiting to peek around and see who it is that just came into your home. No, you're going to start shooting. So and the police don't. I don't think the police want this. I don't think police want to be going to houses doing this stuff. If it's a criminal, yes. But if you're going to somebody that somebody is claiming might someday, perhaps, could cause a crime, that's a very different creature.
And it's double. It doubles up here in Texas. We recently in our area we've had a lot of people, illegals from Honduras, posing as DEA ICE agents with masks on and the whole outfit and everything, knocking on people's doors and all sorts of stuff. So we got that going on. On top of that, also in Texas, we got, I think it's about somewhere in the, I think it's about 80% are in favor of the red flag laws. 67% of Republicans are in favor of red flag laws here in Texas.
It's an education thing.
It is. I talked to a lot of people, law enforcement and whatnot, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're all for people having their rights and da da da." They go on and on like, "Hey, they're just one of us." Then you start bringing up red flag laws, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh no, red flag laws are good because it's too hard to find someone to be dangerous, and you have to have them hospitalized for 3 days and da 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 da, and you have to go through this whole process, and it's too hard to get people's rights taken away that are dangerous." And I mean, well, first of all, freedom's not free. But second of all, go through there's no excuse to skip the process, in my opinion. No excuse.
Oh, absolutely. That's horrifying that the police are saying that. We'll just, in this case, we're going to just throw the Constitution away. Now, liberty is a little bit dangerous because our whole court system is geared around the fact that if there's going to be a mistake made, it's better that a bad guy go free than a good guy go to prison. That's how our country is set up. That's why the government has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you did something. They have to prove it. This says that you have to prove that you're innocent. It's scary. This is not American at all.
Yeah, and it is rare. In most cases, most people never prove their innocence. They're found not guilty, but they generally do not prove their innocence beyond a shadow of a doubt. And putting you in that situation, how do you prove? Yeah, like you're saying, how do you prove it? There's just you just can't prove. How do you prove that you're not dangerous? That you're not, capable? I mean, when everybody's capable. On top of that, anybody's capable of doing something bad. So how do you prove that you're not capable of doing something bad in general?
And you're not supposed to. They want to take away our guns. You're not supposed to be able to prove it.
Yeah, it's basically just a checkmate if that goes through.
All right. Well, we had another question out there. Let me see if I can find it. All right. So he wants to know what's the strategies the GOA have the GOA been using to increase memberships and public education?
Well, I think one of the strategies we try to pursue is going on shows like this. We've done a lot of work with YouTubers, like Hank Strange. I've been on him several times. Military Arms Channel, and some of those guys, and they've been very strong supporters of GOA, and we've seen remarkable growth from that. And that's important because GOA, I believe like VCDL is grassroots organizations. Well, at GOA, we try to equip our members. Well, okay, here's what's going on in Congress, or here's what's going on in your state. Here's what you need to do to take action. We try to mobilize gun owners to be effective, and those guys have really added a lot to our ranks. So we're very grateful, and I'm grateful to Scott for having me on. And we're just trying to get the word out to other channels.
And I thank you for coming on. We got a lot of people out there in the side chat right now. I'd like to thank everybody for joining in, and go ahead and ask some questions. We're here till 10 o'clock, so if you have any questions you want to ask, feel free to ask them. Like I said, and hopefully I can keep up with the side chat and make sure I get all these questions asked.
I mean, also, I'd like to add to what he was saying. It's up to all of us. It's up to all of us to spread the word of the GOA and all these organizations. It's up to us. It's up to us to not just be here on YouTube amongst our own circles, but go to different media, different forms of social media, and spread about these good organizations that are actually doing something. It's up to us. So,
yeah. Well, one event that I'm very proud of that GOA could be a part of was Eric Pragg, and he's our executive director, traveled to Detroit, Michigan, to support an event put on by Rick Ector, who is a firearms instructor up there in Detroit. And in one weekend, they trained over 800 women on firearms, function, safety, and everything like that. And that's just so remarkable that they were able to put through all those members. And we gave away hats and stuff as just kind of a thank you for coming out. But it was really cool to see all those ladies come out who are interested. Look, they just want to protect themselves. I'm sure many of them were single mothers, or they lived on their own, and they don't have a husband to take care of them or whatever. And so it's up to them for self-defense. And we were very glad to have a part in equipping them and for how to protect themselves.
Yeah, we tell our members, get out and talk to those people that are neighbors that may not even be of your political persuasion. One thing we know about firearms is if you can invite somebody to go to the range with you,
yep.
It's our version of cocaine. They find out how much fun it is. It's nothing like what they thought. They have a blast. They see that first hole go through the bullseye, and they're forever hooked. If we would just do that, forget all the other politics. This transcends all of that. Our right as human beings to protect our lives goes beyond our politics. It goes beyond everything, our gender, everything. That is our most basic core right. You can't protect your life. Nothing else you do has any real importance to it.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about that. I was just watching the other day, there was a video on YouTube told taking liberals to the range for the first time. Now, you could see when they were getting up there and shooting them, obviously they were having a hard time trying to figure out how to shoot the guns and everything. But after they took their first few shots, you just seen this amazement wash over them, like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that, and a couple of them went back and said, yeah, I'd go back again. But they still said, well, I have the same views I did before I came here, leaving, but I can guarantee after going back, because now they got the desire to go back to the range, I can guarantee after going back a few more times, their views are slowly changing into a different direction, because like one of them said, the excitement, the adrenaline and everything, and having that feeling just come through my body as I was shooting the gun, it was exciting. So yeah, I want to try it again.
And humans don't change all that fast. It doesn't surprise me that they kind of go away saying, well, I think I'll keep the same politics or whatever. I feel the same way. I think you're right. I think the seed was planted, given a little bit of time. They are going to come around. And that's what we need to do. Then we don't have to worry about blue or purple or red. It's a right that would be something that it's just a matter of education again. If people really understand the issue, understand that police are not going to be there instantaneously. Look at this, what happened in Virginia Beach, guys. The police station was 100 yards away? They were there in just a few minutes, but in a few minutes, it was too long.
Right, yeah. Just still managed to kill 12 people and
another 10.
Injure four or five people as well.
Yeah, I think, yeah, in just a few minutes. So it's education.
And on a positive note, as far as the way things have been going lately, I've seen like school shooting after school shooting where that school shooter has been taken down in a heartbeat by students that are just fed up with this crap, that are just, my daughter, she constantly goes through active shooter drills. Every time a transformer on a power line blows up, they're all hiding in they're having active shooter drills. I mean, over everything, like on a regular basis, they are doing this. So I think kids are just finally getting so sick of this that they're just going nuts whenever someone starts shooting up schools. They end up tackling them down and taking them out. So that's been a good trend, but we need to get teachers armed. And in my opinion, and this is where I catch a lot of shit from a lot of people for having this opinion. But in my opinion, I'm just completely against gun-free zones. And a lot of people say, no, teachers need to have training and this and that and the other before they can carry in schools. And I'm like, no, screw the guns, screw the gun-free zones, period. Let them carry if they want to carry, but offer free training and whatnot. I mean, if they decide to not get training but they carry, I would rather have that teacher in a classroom with my child if there's an active shooter than a teacher with no gun at all just because they weren't trained. I mean, some type of resistance. Because if a kid can tackle down the person and act bravely, then a teacher with a gun can go up and put a bullet in someone's head and stop shit from going down. So me, in my opinion, I want teachers to get training. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to force teachers to not be able to carry. That's basically just a gun-free zone, basically. Yep. And when you put those limitations, how many teachers are, going to want to go out of their way to do all that stuff? And I think once they start carrying, they're gonna look for training. They're gonna want to train. They're gonna start.
And you hear the other side saying, well, but teachers don't want to carry guns. And what they miss is nobody's asking a teacher that doesn't want to carry a gun to carry a gun. This is completely voluntary. Mm-hmm. By the way, we have a university here that lets anybody that's got a concealed handgun permit carry.
Go LU.
That's the university, man. And boy, would that be the wrong place to go. By the way, they now have a shooting range and the shoot house. The shoot house, it's incredible. It really is incredible.
Yeah. I went to Liberty University. In fact, I had the pleasure of hosting Phil a few times on campus, and it was so interesting because with the club I had, we actually there's actually a gun-free zone on campus. One of the things my clubs to push was let's get guns in the dorms because that was the one place that students couldn't carry, and now. After I've graduated, of course, now they let students carry in dorms and provide a lockbox for when it's not on their person. And that's the last place I think a bad guy would want to attack, because there's several armed students and professors and personnel on campus for sure.
Now, are they letting them carry in the classrooms as well?
Yep.
Or
it's all across campus. Yep.
All right, I had another question out there from the crowd. Let's see, let me scroll back here. If Trump gets elected, gets a second term, do you think he might try to improve the 2A situation he helped create, or still be a turncoat? I mean, in the second term, he'll have nothing to lose.
Can I say my stupid opinion real quick?
Go for it.
I think Trump has a problem with. I think his problem is he spouts off at the mouth before he's educated on a subject. Then once they finally educate him on the subject, he starts realizing and starts doing somewhat of the right thing. Usually, it seems to be the situation. Right off the bat, he'll just say whatever he wants to say, and it's not good. Especially when it came to bump stocks and red flag laws. I think if he knew how a lot of people felt, and he quit having a certain lobbying group whispering in his ears on what to do, then I think things would change. And that's the thing, is we need to get the right lobbying groups with more members and get the NRA with less members for that to start happening. But, that's just me.
Absolutely. He's getting bad advice. And if he really had good advisors on guns, we'd be in great shape. I'm convinced of it, but he's getting bad advice. And he's right. I think the NRA is part of this. I know when he first got in, we tried some back channels to see if, he could, if he's going to have gun people giving him input, you need grassroots. You need people like GOA, you need people like VCDL at grassroots level, not the monolith up there. You can have that too, but you need to get a blend to get a good picture if you're going to be president. So I'm hoping at the point we can get in.
And from my understanding, there's a lot of factions in the Trump White House, because you got the Ivanka and the Jared Kushner and their views on things. And you got Donald Jr., who's, I believe, a genuine gun guy. So he has a lot of pushing and pulling on him. But I take calls from members from GOA and non-members, just random people. And they say, I don't know if I can vote for Trump in 2020 because of what he's done on guns with bump stocks and everything and red flags. I think he's hurt a lot of his base by doing that, because I think gun owners really rallied behind him, and I think some people had some questions. I personally, I was never a huge Trump supporter. But some people kind of saw the writing on the wall, and he's certainly turned out to be a mixed bag on guns. Now, I think if reciprocity was put on his desk, or HPA, hearing protection, was put on us, I think he would sign it. I don't see him signing universal background checks or a so-called assault weapons ban, but red flags, and of course what he's done on bump stocks, which we're suing him over, he's kind of gave way on it.
Yeah, that's a problem with him. But I think there are things that I'm thinking we should push him on. I mean, it's something we've been talking about in VCDL, and I haven't started the ball rolling on it yet. But we could say, since you like executive orders, sir, you could change how the Justice Department looks at what a lawful purpose is for carrying in a government building. And let us carry in post offices, and let us carry in the non-DOD buildings. Why not? Just right now, the law says for a lawful purpose. Just have the DOJ make it clear a lawful purpose is, for example, a concealed handgun permit holder. That would be a lawful purpose. He could do that.
Or import bans, or there's a lot in his area he's done, and for the most part, I think his judges' appointments have been good. However, sadly, there's been some exceptions to that as well, with some folks he's nominated. For example, he nominated Bennett. I forget his first name. I think it's Mark Bennett, to the Ninth Circuit. He was anti-gun. Sadly, Bill Barr, the Attorney General, is anti-gun. He supported red flags. The ATF director, his nominee, has opposed constitutional carry and testified in support of Sotomayor and Eric Holder. I wish he would look a little bit closer at some of these folks he's appointing, because they're not all just shining patriots for the Second Amendment.
Again, he needs people like you. He needs somebody out in the NRA there saying, here is what you need to know about these guys and what it's going to mean to gun owners if you put this person in a position of power, or if you put this person in a position of power. Yeah, he just needs that input, because he's got a million things going on. He's a gun owner, but that doesn't mean he focuses on guns like we do.
Yeah.
He just needs some good advice, and we need to figure out some way to get it to him. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, indeed. Because he hasn't been... kind of reiterate what Jordan was saying, he kind of rode in on the coattails of the Second Amendment to getting his presidency, because he did make a lot of big promises out there on his way in, especially standing up there with the NRA and all that stuff, and kind of really showed his actual views on it. Being from New York, he's probably always been around a lot of gun control laws anyway, so that's kind of always kind of circulating in the back of his mind. So I'm sure he still kind of thinks like a typical New Yorker in that fashion. But again, also he's a rich elitist. He doesn't necessarily see the everyday today things that we all see and go through every day, and have the same need for protection like we do, especially now being surrounded by millions of armed guards around his White House, and every time he goes somewhere. So he doesn't see the same things we do every day. So I mean, that could play a big factor in the decisions he makes in the Second Amendment bills that he lets pass or comes up against.
Well, I'd still like to see if we get grassroots going, and he gets, 20, 50, 100,000 emails. What we ought to do, they have that thing where you can ask, you can put a petition in using the White House system. And if you get to 100,000 people in a month, I think it is, then they have to respond in some way. They don't have to do what you're saying in the petition, but they've got to respond to it. You know, if we could coordinate something ahead of time with the major organizations like GOA and our counterparts in Maryland and West Virginia and Arizona and everywhere else, and then have that petition go up and then have everybody hit their membership. A petition, like I was saying earlier, let's allow carry-in post offices. You know, let's go ahead and change that. We might be able to pull that off, basically do an end run on the monolith talking to them, and grassroots could come in if we get enough people to do it. But it would take all of us. We couldn't do it on our own in Virginia. We don't have enough people to pull off 100,000 signatures in a month. But nationwide, oh yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, I think maybe it would definitely be a good idea if a lot of the gun groups from other states. I know some guys from the Ohio gun owners. There's another guy that's up in, I think it's Michigan right now, that's doing a lot of 2A fighting up in Michigan. Everybody, these 2A groups could actually touch base and maybe meet up once a year or try to get together somehow and put some ideas in that would work for the whole country, you know, that could be very beneficial.
Well, there is a meeting once a year called the Gun Rights Policy Conference. It moves around. That is kind of what you're talking about. Sort of the who's who of gun organizations are invited there. You know, GOA is the president. Yeah. All of my counterparts, not all of them, but most of them show up, and we all get to exchange ideas. It's a seminar for 2 days, but yet, at the end of the day, you still walk away independently. It'd be nice if that conference actually pulled together one thing that we all agreed to do, and we went on marching orders and worked as a team to push one topic out there, like I was suggesting. Just get that thing out there. Let's hammer this across the country and see if we can get the president to do something we need done.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, maybe that would be a good next time the conference comes around, maybe, you know, put out that subject and go, look, let's pick one topic, one major topic, and just really focus on that and try to get everybody unified in that one thing and, you know, move forward in that direction.
Well, speaking of conferences, my good friend Tim Roberts, has texted me, and he wants me to shamelessly plug his Creator Summit. In September out in Ohio. I had the pleasure of attending it last year. You get to shoot at a mile. That's very cool. A lot of cool YouTubers will be there. And so it's September 13th, 14th, and 15th. If you want to come out and you want to meet GOA, that's an event to do it at. So I would encourage folks to reach out to Tim or maybe Scott to see how you get involved with that. So you're welcome, Tim.
Yeah, and Thunder Valley Precision, that place is amazing. It's a very beautiful range. It's really nice. I got to go out there last year and hang out with Chris and his brother from Armament and Axes in Tyven. I mean, we were there, man, like 6 or 7 hours that day, just shooting and blasting away and just, you know, talking and having a good time. So, yeah, I mean, if you can get out there, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get out there this year. I just started a new job, so time off is not something readily available. Plus, my daughter is getting married in November, so I got to take a week off around that time to go up to Massachusetts and participate with the wedding and all that. So that's the only time I'm going to be allowed this year to take off, you know, from this new job. So, but it would be nice to get out there, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's talk about. So we already talked about HR 1585 a little bit, that Violence Against Women Act, and how they're pulling the red flag laws across on that. Now, with the bump stocks, is there any new information come out about that, the bump stock lawsuit?
Yes, and in my non-attorney style, I will try to explain what's happened. Of course, in March we had our, our emergency injunctions, and I know we had VCDL come on. I believe as a plaintiff, as well as supporting us, involved with the case. But sadly, ultimately, right now, no one can own a bump stock legally in America. The courts denied, our stays and injunctions and appeals. Some groups may or may not have, and I'm not familiar with that, but have had stays for a little while. I think one guy in Utah got to keep his a little bit longer. But right now, the stays have all expired, and it's legal to have one. And so, as I understand it, things kind of start back over. And they're going to hear the case on our merits. I believe the date is June 24th. And we believe we have a strong case. And we believe that we will, be victorious. But it's all just kind of up to the judges and our attorneys. And again, VCDL's on it. We're grateful to them for being on, but we're doing everything we can in the courts to fight this.
Yeah, and let me emphasize this to people out there, because a lot of people are going to go, I don't have a bump stock. It's a stupid idea. Why are we wasting time on this? It's not about bump stocks. Let me be clear. I'll say it again. It's not about bump stocks. It's about the BATF, a bunch of unelected bureaucrats making law. Not our lawmakers that we elect and can control to some degree by electing people. These are unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats made a law. We cannot let that law stand. Forget about bump stocks.
Yep.
It'd be nice to fix that, but that's not the real issue here at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the checks and balances are completely screwed with the ATF. It's kings and queens, basically, just writing law, and nobody can do a damn thing about it. Just no legislation, nothing. I mean, that's just, I'm not going to get started.
and the dangerous thing is, in 2020, if Kamala Harris or Eric Newcomb-Swalwell or Cory Booker's elected president, now they can use this precedent to go after AR-15s, because if you have an AR-15 and a belt loop, you can bump fire, and then you got an unregistered machine gun. It's just so dangerous, that the precedent that this has been set, and it's a big reason why we're involved. So
yeah, and they're going to say, well, we need, the wording was so vague too that they could technically start to come after just semi-autos.
Yep.
And then one of you guys out there, one of you gun guys that know something about guns, explain to me the difference as far as a user pulling a trigger between a revolver and a semi-automatic. What's the difference with the user? Nothing, right? You pull the trigger, the gun goes bang. So revolvers could go on the chopping block, because then they go, well, it behaves much like a regular semi-auto. So we need to ban those too. So, I mean, we laugh at this, but it is, I've laughed at a lot of things and then watched them actually start to become law. So this whole thing is bad. And I'm glad GOA jumped in there real hard to fight this.
Right on. Oh, I do have another question out there from the Crazy Scotsman. He wants to know who the GOA's attorneys are, where did they come from, and what are their backgrounds? I mean, he's not looking for like a giant explanation, just something real quick to sum it up.
I would encourage you to go to gunowners.com. That is our foundation's website, and you can learn more about our foundation there. So it's gunowners.com. That they're very smart and very talented, and you can find a lot more information about them there at gunowners.com.
Right on. Yeah. Speaking of getting these Democratic hopefuls in office there, with their brilliant ideas of trying to take executive action to start to ban guns and create gun control. What are your thoughts on that?
Every Democrat running for office right now is terrible. They're all like, oh, we want to ban AR-15s. We want to, have universal background checks and red flags, and some of them vary a little bit, but they're all gun grabbers, and they're all aggressively on that platform. And Eric Pratt, he went on Fox News, I think it's about a month ago, and he said, you should think twice before you run on gun control, because that's how a lot of elections have been lost by running on that. Because gun owners get out and vote, and when we do, good things happen. So it'll be very interesting going into 2020.
Yeah, and the problem is, though, a lot of gun owners tend to sleep when they should be voting, and that just floors me. You've got people that say, well, I'm a hunter, so what do I care about what happens to handguns and all? We have to use the NATO doctrine. An attack on any gun owner or any gun owner's rights is an attack on all of us. If they go after a hunter's guns, as far as I'm concerned, they've come after my self-defense guns. I'm not a hunter, but we should stand and defend him, and he should defend us, and so forth. And people have to get out and vote. Let me tell you what happened in Virginia. The attorney general, we have a very anti-gun attorney general. On his own, he decided a few years ago to drop reciprocity with 25 states. And let me tell you, that woke up gun owners. The Democrats were flooded with calls. The governor back then, McAuliffe, was going, oh my God, what do I do with all of this stuff? And we ended up coming up with a solution. We now honor all permits from all states, and we actually expanded it. But let me tell you, I saw people snapping to attention, and I hadn't seen snap to attention in a long time, because their phones exploded. Because when gun owners wake up and they've actually been cut, they don't seem to not pay attention that the knife's approaching them. But once they've been stabbed, then they wake up. I'm trying to get them to wake up sooner so we don't have to do that.
Yep.
All right. So there was another one out there that was asking, okay, he said, will regular people, gun owners, have the balls to come together and really stand up and fight against the government on a full-scale, out-and-out bloodbath to take this country back and for our rights? Now, do you think it could possibly ever come to that, and do you think all the gun owners would actually band together and jump in on that?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, in my opinion, it's just how fast it happens. If they come in straight ahead and say, we're taking everything right now, yeah, I think we would actually see, I think gun owners would actually do something. If they slowly take away a little bit at a time, then I doubt it. Just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, in my opinion, I certainly think we can disband the political bonds, as our founding documents say. But I don't know if I would rush into starting the boogaloo, as they say, right yet, because we still live, in a somewhat free country. We can still, vote in elections freely. We can still, call our representatives. And I want to say, in the political realm, and fight there long before we consider any other options. So that's where GOA is at. We're going to fight in the political realm. We're going to, try to put good people in office and kick out the squishes. And we're going to apply pressure when they're in office. And that's where we're at. And that's what we want to stay at.
Yeah. And I think VCDL is in agreement with that. First of all, this is not a tyrannical government. We have the right to vote. They haven't taken away all of our rights. They haven't said we've got martial law or anything like that. And I'll tell you what, our police officers and our military are not going to turn on the population. I can't see it happening. Oh, there may be a few here and there, but the vast majority of them would probably turn on the person that told them to attack us before they would turn on us. These are great people out there in our military and in our police departments and everything else. That said, the way they would do it, if they were ever going to do something like this, would be to send in the blue helmets, the UN, people who have no care for any of us. We're just somebody from another country. But the problem with that is we would feel the same about them. It'd be very different to shoot at somebody that was here to take over this country from another country than it would. I just don't see that happening anytime in the near future. And keep in mind, when this country was founded, what was it? was it less than 30% of the people wanted to fight. 30% were loyal to the king and didn't want to do anything, and 30% were sort of neutral. When you take on your government, you're looking at treason and everything. I mean, it's a serious business. I really, my hats go off to our founding fathers, the guts it took. When you think about what they did and what could have happened to them and what did happen to some of them, these people were incredible. They were some of the bravest people you'd ever want to meet.
Yep. I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said, we all hang together or hang separately. So yeah, it's remarkable. So it's truly incredible. Yeah.
All right. Well, we got some questions wanting to know what your background is other than the GOA, Jordan.
That question for me, it's such a boring subject, I think. But anyways, I grew up in rural North Carolina, central North Carolina, and everything. And then I graduated high school. That's when I got into guns. It was, I always grew up shooting or whatever, but you never huge into guns. But then like Sandy Hook happened, and I'm like, they're talking about banning these AR-15s, and I learned what an AR-15 was, and it's just, it shoots a little tiny 223 round, and one pull of the trigger, it's semi-automatic and everything. And I kind of got an interest in those guns, and then I kind of got a political bug. And so then I graduated high school. Then I went to Liberty University and trying to study political science or whatever. And I was looking to join a gun rights club. And I looked around campus, and there was no gun rights club. So the first semester of my freshman year, I started Students at Liberty for Gun Rights, the gun rights club there, and did a lot of work and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into the club and laid a lot of groundwork. But like I alluded to earlier, we really grew. We were one of the biggest clubs on campus. By the time I graduated, we hosted Phil a few times on campus. We hosted Eric Pratt a few times as well. Hosted Joe Walsh, former congressman. That was really cool. And we also had a little bit of sway over the administration and Jerry Jr. Like I said, we had a campus carry policy. Which was really good, but we wanted to make it a little bit better so people didn't have to leave guns in cars, which in my opinion is always a bad idea, and let them actually carry in their dorms, on their person or in the lockbox. And so we got that changed. We're also we tugged on Jerry a little bit to urge him to build the gun range, and I got down there last fall and when it had just opened up, and it is remarkable. I think it's one of the biggest the nicest gun ranges on the East Coast that they're building down there. But anyways, I was very involved with the club, and I knew I wanted to work full-time in gun rights. And I had Eric Pratt a few times. I got connected with GOA. I interned for him for a few years, worked for him while I was in college, and now I've been working full-time since 2017. So I've been really blessed with these opportunities. And like I said, I love working with GOA, love working with the people. Every time I go into Eric's office, I learn something else about the Constitution. It's a pleasure.
And those seeds you planted over there, they bloomed. Great job.
Yeah. The club's still growing. I'm very proud of that. It's in its third generation of leaders. I still keep tabs on them and try to advise them on what to do. But it's proud that I have political grandchildren, so to speak, that are leading the club and are standing for gun rights after I'm gone. So.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, that's how we, like you said, plant the seeds and make things bloom and grow. I mean, education towards the Second Amendment and towards guns is something that's desperately needed out there right now. So the more people we can educate and get interested in the subject, and to show them, hey, it's not the gun's fault. Guns aren't scary. It's just a tool. And it can be something that's fun and exciting at the same time. That would definitely help to change a lot of minds of people. But you got like the media and everything out there that for some reason are just on this brainwashing scale, trying to force all this nonsense on people and make them think that it's definitely something it's not. So, yeah, kudos to you, man, for building that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, Andrew Faulkner says, "What can regular citizens do to bring awareness to the lies about guns politicians are spreading?" And I think basically what has been a recurring theme in this chat is planting those little seeds everywhere. I mean, and that's what that's why I haven't been on YouTube lately. I think we need to get on as many places as we can, but as well as social media platforms, and talk to as many people that are not in our group as we can, and not go all out aggressive. Like, well, we have certain groups for that, but us just as members and whatnot, we need to get out there and be friends with people, talk to people with different interests and whatnot, and just plant those little seeds, get them thinking. Don't argue with them and fight with them and slam our stuff down their throats, but just give them a little bit of something to think about so they'll look into it, and eventually they'll get into it more and more. Because I see a lot of people, like over on Facebook, they are just slamming their socialist ideas down people's throats, and everybody hates them. Everybody quits following them, and they don't like them anymore. And I see it as, I don't want to do the same thing. I want to, post a picture of this and that, and then here and there, share this thing from the GOA, and and just put things in there here and there, just to where it's subtle but still there, just something to give them something to think about. And I think that's the best way to get people started, at least thinking about these things.
Yeah, right. You don't want to overwhelm them, that's for sure, because you overwhelm them, their head starts spinning, it just makes them angry, and then they're just like, "Oh, forget it," and then they're totally against it forever. So,
And something I've noticed is, politics is personal, right? It develop. Sometimes you might need to develop a relationship with that person, right? That person you want to change their mind about. Yeah, you can take them to range once or twice, but get to know them, hear their thoughts. I'm involved with a local church group here in my area with young adults and everything, and sometimes guns come up when they say where I work, so we talk about it, and I sit there and I listen to them. In fact, we were talking about teachers carrying guns. One of them is a teacher, and she was unsure. She was unsure about what if a student tries to take my gun or something, and everything. I just hear their concerns, and then I calmly explain it to them, and sure, well, that's a training issue, that could be worked out, it's not a big deal. And reassure them. And by the end of that conversation, I think that teacher came around, or at least is open to the idea. But it's relationships. We can scream at people in the comments all day long, but building relationships with people, your family, your close friends, be sure that those are people you have strong influence over. And I think that's a good place to start if you want to tell people about guns.
I would suggest a couple things. Letters to the editor. That's one way to reach out to a lot of people, putting in a very well-written letter to the editor. Countering maybe something that somebody put out, or putting out the first idea on something. Number two, when you're debating somebody, I actually like debating somebody that's on the other side of the fence, especially when a lot of other people are around. At the end of the day, I'm not going to convince that person to see things my way. Who I'm convincing are all the people around that are listening to both sides, and they're going, the other guy isn't making any sense, and you are. That's the victory. The gun control guy, who cares? But it's everybody else that's listening, because it's good that they get to hear both sides. In the media, they usually only get to hear one side.
That's sure.
Yep. The media and the politicians definitely want to keep things very one-sided. I guess that's just to keep the people at bay and keep them controlled, so that way they can create their laws and keep putting our taxpayer dollars in their own pockets. But yeah, like Josh was saying too, if we spread the word more and more about what we're doing on different social media sites, I think I like sites like YouTube that have been proven to be a little bit on the anti-Second Amendment side. Facebook is a little anti-Second Amendment. I like to keep spreading the word across those platforms more so than the ones that are pro Second Amendment, because all you're doing at that point is preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about this now. Switzerland. What are your thoughts on that? Switzerland has been probably one of the other countries out there, a little similar to ours as far as accepting of being armed and having guns in the homes, and sporting with guns and things of that nature. Now that they're letting the EU influence them, and they've gotten to a point now where they're actually getting ready to disarm the population over there. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Would that be something that you think might affect the United States, seeing as how everybody in this country and every other country likes to compare our country to every other country out there?
Well, if they want to see their crime rates and murder rates and all of their crime stats go up, then having more gun control is a great way to do that. In answer to if comparing that to the U.S., well, one of the good things Trump has recently done, in the minor category, but it was a good thing. He did unsign the U.S. from the UN Armed Treaty, which is potentially a ban on semi-autos. It's a list of end users, which is in effect of a gun registry, and he did unsign us from that, which previously we were signed to when Obama and their Secretary of States were in office. So that's a good thing, and that's one more step away from UN gun control. But like I said, if Switzerland wants to see their murder rates and rape rates and crime rates go up, then gun control is a great way to do that.
Yeah, and Europe, well, I said this earlier, you can't have socialism with gun rights. And, well, you can't have a one world order either with gun rights. So, they're slowly trying to disarm everybody. I mean, it sounds like I'm paranoid, but there it is. It's all out there, one thing after another. And take Switzerland. They've got their crime rate's almost non-existent. So why do they have to change anything? So what they did was they came up with a compromise. And when you deal with the gun controllers, a compromise is they give up nothing and you give up half of what you've got. That's how they compromise. They hold a gun to your head and say, I want your whole wallet. You say, no, so I'll take half. And now we've compromised. Well, they will come back for the part they left on the table. I promise you that. And we are the real thorn in their side in the United States because we are proving to be a very tough cookie when it comes to this stuff. And I hope we keep being a tough cookie.
Oh yeah, indeed. I mean, there's more. It seems to be more and more countries around the world are actually turning to this. Especially like New Zealand, how they just decided to up and ban guns overnight like that. Canada is actually putting more restrictions on their guns now as well. So, I'm just hoping we as Americans can keep that trickle down effect from coming into our country and destroying everything that our forefathers and our soldiers and everything fight to keep this country America instead of making it something else.
We've always been the shining light on the hill. Let's just hope we stay that way.
Yeah.
We're still young, a little over 200 years old, and that's what amazes me is it. The other day I was like really trying to dig into where the Second Amendment, where the thought of it, the whole how it came to be, where that came from, and I was looking back into thousands of years into Britain and all that stuff, and they realized over and over and over it's all about the people being armed and whatnot was what kept their country at its strongest. That was when they were at their best. But yet they go over and over, back and forth, back to standing armies and this and all that crap. So I mean, fortunately we got a good start in America. We were built off of their mistakes,
Yep.
but you start off in first place, and you can only go to second, third, and fourth, you can only lose places. You have to maintain that first place, and that's hard to do. So, and I think that's where America's at, is we're in first place, but we have a lot to lose. And when you have a lot to lose, that's a big fight.
I agree, and I think super important things that our founders realized is that our rights don't come from the government. That our rights are just not these gifts that government gives out, because if that were the case, then the government could take them away. Our founders believed and wrote in the Declaration of Independence that our rights, are endowed to us by our Creator. Our rights come to us from something other than the government, and that's why they can't be infringed, because they're inalienable. And I think that really separates us from a lot of other countries, because our foundation recognizes inalienable rights.
Well, and a lot of it, the argument from the other side about the Second Amendment is, when they read the Second Amendment, they always get stuck on that word militia. Now, I read an article the other day where the guy was trying to say, okay, well, the true definition of the guns was not meant for the individual, it was for the militia. Now, down below that, it says, for the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Now, I believe the people would be the individuals, correct? Because the militia will not be able to do it by themselves. There's going to come to a point where there's not enough militiamen to keep fighting, so the people have to have arms to back up the militia at that point for the right of the free state.
And Scott, now, you're a fellow Virginia. Sorry, you're a fellow Virginian, Scott. Look at our Constitution, Article 1, Section 13. The well-regulated militia consisting of the body of the people. There it is, right in our Constitution. Who we're talking about, all of us.
See, and that's the thing is when you look at the founding fathers, you look at all the different states, the Jeffersonian way of thought, all the different ways of thoughts. Whenever they were all writing their own version of the Second Amendment, about a third of them said something about militias, but pretty much all of them, just about all of them, said something about the right to keep and bear arms for the individual, and that being necessary, all that stuff and everything like that. Some of them even mentioned hunting. Some people say that doesn't mention hunting, and it's about the militia. Well, only about a third of them even mentioned really the militia. Mostly it was about the individual, most of them. So the Second Amendment is actually two different things. It's just like the Fifth Amendment. It's three different things. It's not one thing. It's not the right to remain silent. There's three different things there. Same thing with the Second Amendment. It's two different things there. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. They think they try to read it all together. No, it's two separate thoughts, but they go together, basically.
And the Second Amendment is great, and it's so important, right? But I believe that even if we didn't have a Second Amendment, we would have a right to keep and bear arms, because that right is, as our founders believe, God-given.
Yeah.
As a human being, right, you have a right to defend yourself, a natural right, an inherent right, an inalienable right, right? That's not a gift from the government, right? So the Second Amendment just says federal government and now state governments don't infringe upon this right. You can't do that. It protects it, but it doesn't give you that right. That's something you have as a human. And again, going back to our founders, they recognized that, they saw that, and they laid it out for us.
Yeah, and pretty much simply the way I explain it to people that are new to, because that's my job, is going into classrooms and speaking to license to carry classes and talking to them about joining Texas Law Shield. But the first thing I tell them, before I tell them about the program or anything like that, the important thing that I get through to them right away, because they're new to the gun world and everything like that, the first thing I tell them is, hey, who gave you your right to defend yourself? If you go beat the hell out of a dog and it bites you back, did the government give it the right to do that? how stupid is that? How stupid is that thought that the government, gives you? It just doesn't make any sense. And that clicks through with a lot of them, just giving them that little,
I use a similar trick with disarmament. I say, we are probably the dumbest animal on the planet. No other animal disarms itself. You don't see an elk or something taking off its horns when it goes in a forest. No, we're the only one that voluntarily makes ourselves helpless. It's crazy.
Yeah, I read another article where the guy was saying like this: the Constitution wasn't written for us; it was written for the government to keep them in line. It's like a guideline of rules that they have to play by. It's something that limits their power. He said, in the end, if they did repeal the Second Amendment, that would do nothing for us, we the people, because the fact that it is our right to be able to protect ourselves however we can.
Yep.
All the Constitution is this is what powers we're allowing you to have as the government that we are allowing you to have.
You're right, exactly.
Yeah, people forget that the government's our servant. We're not the government's servant.
We the people. Absolutely.
All right, I got another question out there. Tyven wants to know if anybody knows what the thing that Trump signed at the NR80 meeting about gun rights for Americans was.
That's what I was referring to with the UN Arms Treaty. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about a few minutes ago.
He signed to get us off of that treaty.
Yes, yeah, he signed to get Obama's Hillary, and then it was John Kerry signed us on the treaty, which still had to be ratified by 2/3 of our Senate. So we weren't on the treaty, we weren't. I don't know what the proper term is. Accepted onto it, but now he has removed what Obama's administration did.
Yeah, we were on the tracks heading towards being on the treaty, and now he's derailed the train from that.
Yes.
All right, so we got. Okay, go ahead.
No, I just want to say a lot of people are talking about the militia and kind of going back and forth about what the militia is, what its purpose was, and whatnot. Interesting fact: in the early years of America, it was actually required for everybody to participate in militia exercises, I think like once a month in the beginning. So, and that was just us as individuals with our firearms. Able-bodied men was basically what a militiaman was. We were required to come together every month and practice in militia exercises for self-defense. We didn't really have a standing army. And for the longest time, standing armies weren't a thing because countries didn't go into debt and crap like that. You couldn't afford, no country could really afford to have a standing army because you didn't borrow money from other countries and go in debt like that. So that's kind of, standing army is kind of a modern thing. But as far as the militia goes, people are talking about it. Yeah, in the early days, there was actually militia practices and whatnot. And and they were talking about the National Guard, and no, that's not the militia.
And you want the concept of an unregulated militia that we have now, that you and I are all of us listening are all part of this. Look at what happened when Katrina hit Louisiana. Who was it that protected the neighborhoods? Was it the police? No, they were gone. Who protected the neighborhoods was the neighborhoods. If that something were to happen here in Virginia, I could see the people in my area protecting our own neighborhoods, setting up our own, if you will, militia, just to make sure that we had security until the police could get back on their feet after, say, a terrorist attack or some horrible natural disaster. So it's as applicable today as it was in the 1700s.
Wasn't it George Mason who said, who is the militia? It's everyone but a few public officials. I believe that was George Mason.
I think so.
Well, like Armament and Axis was saying, a lot of people on the other side tend to get stuck on that a well-regulated part of it, thinking that it has to be like the actual military because that's regulated by the government.
Well, if you look at what the term regulated meant back then, like you look up Webster's 1828 dictionary, and you look up the term regulated. It means like well trained or well timed. It doesn't mean what the modern term of regulation means now. It's actually, in this case, you'd be proficient with your weapon. So it doesn't even mean what they're claiming it means.
Yeah, a clock was well regulated back then if it was accurate. It didn't mean the government was standing there making sure the clock was on time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely.
And all that stuff, that whole militia thing, you just read back through England's history, and you see where that thought came from, where it all amounted from. And I mean, there was at times in England where it was a law to train your son. By the time they were 13, they had to be trained with this and that and whatnot. And of course, they went back and forth, and then all of a sudden it was illegal to, have it at all, or even have traps for hunting and whatnot. They went back and forth, but a lot of it, I think a lot of it comes from that.
Well, you often hear about, look at the low crime murder rates in England, because they've got all this gun control. Well, baloney. Back in the 20s and 30s, citizens in England could carry revolvers and stuff with them, and they had almost no murders anyhow. It's just a cultural thing. They just didn't. They may have had a lot of robberies and stuff, but traditionally the British don't kill each other. They do other things. It's a violent society, but it's not killing isn't one of the things. And then they did the gun control stuff. Well, nothing really changed on that part of it. They weren't killing themselves before they took their guns away. And of course now things are changing, because now Britain is not quite the Britain that it was 30 years ago. So things are going to get dicey over there, and they are dicey now.
And now they're trying to call for knife control. Yeah. Right? I don't know how you're going to eat a steak over there. But yeah, you want to like dull knives, or you see all those memes on Facebook, whatever, of a police department over there raiding criminals, and it's a screwdriver and a pair of pliers. And, so glad we got these dangerous weapons off the street. It's just so laughable.
And see, here's the thing: is I was looking around at different knife and knife and sword channels, people from Britain that had YouTube channels about knives and swords, and these dudes actually walk around with chainmail under their clothes every day. Like, okay, I don't know anybody in America that's walking around with body armor or chainmail under their clothes every day that's just a normal citizen. If it's that bad that people actually do that over there, then it's a bit worse than I think what we hear.
I think because they had a knife give back program, knife give back. They had a little box out there that you could drop your kitchen knives in as a give back. And a bunch of gangbangers went over there and raided the thing and walked away with all the knives. So, that worked out really well. They armed the criminals. Good job there, Britain.
Yeah, I remember years ago, because I grew up in Massachusetts, unfortunately, but they had in a particular town, which was a very high gang crime town, where they opened up a church for one day, and they put these bins in the church, and nobody was there at the church. They just left it wide open, and they put these bins in there for people to come dispose of their firearms. They collected like 2 bins full of firearms by the end of the day, and 98% of those firearms were all junk. So none of them would work. None of them would ever be able to work. And about a third of them, the serial numbers were scratched off. So, criminals tend to be a little dumb, but they're not always as dumb as you think they are.
Yeah, that's a feel-good measure. That's all it is. Oh, let's feel good. We're taking guns. What does off the street mean anyhow? I've looked on the street for guns. I've had to buy every one I've got. I'm putting one in the street. That would be so much cheaper, But the guns in the street is us. That's what these people that are, the gun controllers, they say guns in the street. They're talking about you and me. Our guns are in the street. I beg your pardon. Mine are pampered. They're never in the street.
Yeah, the only time they're in the street is when I'm in the street.
Yeah. If I'm walking across the road, a gun is walking across the road. Yeah.
So before we get to the end of our time frame, can we ask our guests what is their preferred everyday carry gun of Mr. Jordan and Mr. Phillip?
I carry a Glock 19. You saw him a spare mag earlier, either in a Milt Sparks Summer Special 2, or that's for concealed, or in a Serpa, or no, excuse me, not a Serpa, a Safari Land, a Safari Land holster when I'm open carrying. That's what I carry every day here in the Commonwealth.
All right. Well, for me, lately I'm a 40 caliber guy, but I tell you what, I got totally hooked on the P365.
Oh wow!
Are we showing them? Are we showing them?
Yeah, in here, it's pointed in a safe direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a P365. This is a special edition one. It was done for the NRA. It wasn't so much that I bought. I like the flat dark earth. But this thing is 10+1. It fits in your pocket. It's really tiny, accurate. 50 yards, no problem hitting something a paper plate size with this thing. So it's convenient, easy to put in your pocket, carry openly. And then you can get a 12 and now a 15 round magazine for it. So capacity isn't an issue. But when I want to carry a real gun, I got a 40 caliber SIG 320. I got several of these. This is the compact model, also the subcompact. So I do like 40, but I'll tell you what, any of these guns I think will get the job done.
Yep.
Right on. Yeah, I carry a P320 full size usually. I haven't found a good concealed carry holster for it yet, so I may downsize to a compact frame for it, but or maybe possibly purchase a P365. I know Harry's Holsters sells some wonderful holsters for those guns, so it may be an option on my table here very shortly.
What do you got on you right now, Mr. Gorilla, Mr. Silverback?
Well, I don't have anything on me right now because I'm sitting at my desk, but I have lots of stuff around me. You can see those revolvers up there. Let's see, I got probably about eight guns all within arm's reach. So I think I'm okay. What about you? What you carrying?
Man, I mean, I carry my CZ P10C when I'm working, but when I'm not working, I don't know, this thing is just so damn comfortable in this holster and appendix because of the revolver. The barrel's so narrow that you can fit it in that void whenever you're appendix carrying in between. So, I mean, it's just freaking comfortable. Smith & Wesson 686, 7-shot.
That is a beautiful gun.
It is, man, it is comfortable. It's a 3-pound big gun, but when you compare it to a gun that's half the weight, like the CZ P10C for appendix carry, that P10C will jab into you. That one, the barrel goes in between and it stores nicely. It's just comfortable. And nobody can tell I'm carrying the damn thing. It's so easy to conceal.
It looks like the dirty Josh gun instead of the dirty Harry gun there. It's a biscuit. It sort of looks like a cannon pointed at you, I'm sure. Of course, like I tell people, if anything ever goes wrong, you're going to want the USS Iowa behind you with those.
Yep. Got one with a 6-inch barrel on it. This isn't Smith & Wesson by any chance, but it is a 357, so a 7-shot revolver.
What you got in it?
Right now, I got nothing in it.
Oh, man.
Those are all props on your shelf.
No, they're not all props. I just don't keep this one loaded. That's probably about the only one in here that I don't keep loaded.
Yeah, you know why Silverback carries a gun. He hands it to them when he's about to get in a fight. He's like, oh, let's make this even.
Hey, especially if they stole my bananas.
Yeah.
Well, there was another question out there from Tyven. He wants to know what y'all's thoughts are about marijuana and should it be legal? And if it is legal, should people still have their Second Amendment rights intact?
All right, I'll jump on that one. Our organization does not take an opinion on anything but guns, period. But having said that, if marijuana becomes legal, then we think you should be allowed to have your gun rights anytime you have a legal substance. There's alcohol out there, and there's alcoholics. Well, if you're abusing alcohol or abusing drugs, well, then laws kick in, and yeah, you're going to have problems, and you should. But as long as you're doing legal stuff, there should be nothing legal that you can do that would take away one of your civil rights. Any of your civil rights.
Yeah,
So-
I agree. Same page. Well said. If you're an honest citizen in your state, you shouldn't lose your gun rights. So I agreed. Like I said, GOA's like VCDL is not going to comment on the more general issue, but you shouldn't be deprived of your rights because you're a law-abiding citizen in your state. So.
Yeah, I mean, it basically just comes down to is everybody should be held responsible for what they do, whether they're drunk, stoned, or not. If you accidentally shot somebody, well, then you're going to be held accountable. Well, you should be held accountable for it, and that should settle it right there. You shouldn't get a free pass because you were getting messed up, and at the same time, you shouldn't get arrested because you had a firearm, in my opinion, while you were drinking or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if you do something stupid, you're going to be held fully accountable, maybe even more so because you made the dumbass decision to, go somewhere where you knew you shouldn't have been mentally. Well,
Yeah, I wouldn't drink and carry anyhow. I don't. If I'm carrying a gun to defend my life, I don't want anything to impair that decision because the slightest impairment could mean I could end up being killed where I would have survived. Yep. So I don't see. I won't touch alcohol. In Virginia, I could legally drink if I was open carrying in a restaurant, but I won't touch it because number one, if anything goes wrong, then they're gonna they'll be, oh well, he was intoxicated, or B, again, I want my full faculties there in an emergency. Well, my wife can drink. I'll take care. I'll protect her. But that's don't mix them that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different. I think hopefully a lot of people are that way, where when they realize once they start carrying and whatnot, you got to change your life. Your life changes. I mean, most people become more level-headed. They don't freak out when someone flips them off in traffic and start chasing them and starting fights and crap like that. Like people usually are more level-headed once they start carrying. And usually most people make more sensible choices about knowing themselves and whether they should be going and drinking, whether they'll get carried away once they start drinking.
Yeah.
Me personally, I won't drink unless I'm at home. And that's the only time I drink because I always have a firearm on me, period. No compromise on that.
Permit holders don't cause problems drinking. I mean, at least in Virginia here, I never see anything about permit holders being arrested that are drunk and losing their rights. I mean, it's just so if it happens, it's so rare. They just don't do it.
Yeah.
Permit holders overall are some of the nicest people you'll ever want to meet. That's been my experience with all the gun owners I know, and very responsible people. And there's going to be exceptions out there, but the vast majority of them. If everybody was like the members in our organization, we wouldn't need keys anymore. The only reason we'd be carrying guns is to target shoot or to take out four-legged animals that are rabid. That'd be about it.
An armed society is a polite society.
Very polite. You had a gun show, if you back up and bump into a bunch of people, everybody's saying, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry, excuse me, sorry, sir. It's okay.
Even if you didn't bump into the guy, you said, excuse me. In fact, thinking on that note, one of our previous board members and I were at a gun show here in Richmond, and he saw a gun that he wanted. So he took out his wallet and he took out this wad of cash. And suddenly he looks at me, he says, where else on earth would I pull out a wad of cash like this, surrounded by people I don't know, and all of them having guns, and feel perfectly relaxed? And I said, yeah, I don't think there's anywhere else on earth you could do that.
So Keith Gregory brings up a really, really good question, a controversial question that's been going around lately. Should nonviolent felons have their gun rights restored?
Again, I'll field that one. I'll jump in anybody else because we've looked at this. We've thought about this, and the answer is yes. In fact, the belief that we have is for nonviolent felons, once you've paid back society, that's the whole point of paying back society. The whole point of prison and fines and penalties is to make amends and to pay your debt to society. Once you've paid back your debt, you should get back all of your rights. In fact, you shouldn't have to even apply to get them back. They should just come back once you've completed your sentence. Now, violent felons, people that are murder, rape, rob, that's a different category. But right now, if you're possessing the wrong eagle feather, you got a bald eagle feather on you, you could be charged with a felony, and you're then treated just like a rapist and anybody else like that and lose your gun rights. Now, we think that this whole felony thing was just another way to disarm us. And as you notice, there are more and more felonies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
God, any of us could have been felon, but for the grace of God.
Yeah. How we look at it is very similar to Phil. Is if you're too dangerous to own a gun, then why are you on the streets? You know, that's kind of the succinct way of putting it for us.
Yeah. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, man. I'm glad to hear that from both of y'all. I didn't expect less because y'all both seem legit. I mean,
Yeah,
but yeah, I wanted to bring that question out because I mean I feel the same way. If you're too dangerous to be trusted with a gun, you're probably too dangerous. Period. I mean, no matter what, you're too dangerous to be on the streets at all.
Yeah, if they can't trust you with a gun, how could they trust you to vote or do anything else?
Yeah.
If you're dangerous, think of it this way: if the zoo opened up its gates and let tigers loose in downtown Richmond? But would that be a problem? Well, yes, because they're predators. They will seek you out and kill you. And it's the same thing with violent criminals. They're predators. If you allow them to walk on the streets, they are going to make victims out there. It's guaranteed.
So let me make this a little bit more complicated. Let me go into the territories of where it becomes violating people's constitutional rights. If we were able to have that control and pass a law that says anybody that's a free man should have their rights restored and whatnot, what do we do about ex post facto pertaining towards sex offenders, stuff like that? We can't go back and throw them back in prison or anything like that. How would we treat that as far as restored rights go and whatnot without violating the Constitution due to that?
Well, a sex offender, I don't know if that would qualify under a violent felon. I don't know. That I'm not sure.
I would consider it still sort of a violent offense. I mean, because rape is kind of violent.
Well, no. I'm not arguing whether it's violent or not. What I'm saying is those people are already free on the streets. So if we were to go to that territory and say any man who served his time and is now free should have their rights restored, and we can't sit there and say, oh, okay, well then we need to put your ass back in prison so we can have our rights back, because then ex post facto we can't do that. That's after the fact.
We can restore rights after the fact, couldn't we?
But in a way, I mean, I think the way that could work out, in my mind, the only thing I could think that could work out for that is basically if you're a sex offender, I consider you on lifetime probation, and therefore you haven't received your rights back. That's the way I would, look at it.
I would classify it as a violent felony and just leave it at that. Then violent felons wouldn't get their rights restored. They would have to go through the system we have now of going to a judge and so forth. That's how I would see that. Anything predatory, they're going after people in a violent way. That's how I would see it. Now, the guy that wrote a hot check 30 years ago, come on. Let's give him his rights back. His life isn't just because he did one thing like that doesn't mean his life's now worthless. It's still valuable.
Yeah.
People turn around. Some people, boy, they go to prison, even go into jail for one day, and it's over. They're never going to do that again. Innocent people get pulled into. So I just again go with the grace of God thing. It could happen to any of us, and there needs to be a way out for good people or people that have changed their ways.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. I mean, if you've said, hey, I got something for you, I'll leave it in the mailbox, come by and pick it up, I'm going to work, and that person came by and picked it up out of your mailbox, they basically committed a federal crime. Yeah. They're messing with federal property. I mean, everybody's probably well, everybody has committed felonies. We've all broken rules that we didn't know existed.
Give
I mean,
you an
that's-
example of that here in Virginia. We had one of our members got arrested. A cop asked, this is mistake number one. The cop said, "Can I search your car?" And he said, "Yes." That was mistake number one. The cop tells him to put his hands behind his back, and he's going, "What possibly?" And the cop reached in the trunk and pulled out bolt cutters. He said, "Are these your bolt cutters?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, that's felony possession of a burglary tool. So you're going to jail." Yeah. Look at the look on your face, Josh. Yes. That, and there are so many things out there just like that waiting to trap you. That's why you never let the police search your car. But any of us could be caught in this, any of us. And the people that say, "Oh no, a criminal should never get his gun rights back," to them, I just don't know what to make out of that. They just really hadn't thought about the fact that, don't be too holier than thou when it comes to laws where the books are this thick, full of stuff that nobody knows everything. If they want to get you and they want to hunt through those books hard enough, and they search your whole home and your car and everything else, eventually they will find something if they really, really want to get you. And that's scary, but that's the fact.
Yeah, I mean, what is there, like 10,000 pages? There's like 10,000 pages on selling lettuce. We think we know all the laws. We think we could really.
Well, and that's another thing too. Police officers aren't really trained on the law either. So, a lot of times they just pull these rabbits out of their ass and make things up just so they can incriminate people, because they're the law, so they want to make that arrest.
Yeah, or get you to do something, or maybe they're wrong, but they'll bluff on it. Well, yeah, that is the law. Well, no, it's not. Yes, it is. And, we tell our members never argue that stuff on the side of the road at 3 a.m. Just comply. Yep. And the next day, come to us and let us know what happened, and we'll get it ironed out.
Yeah. You can't beat the rat, but you can beat the rat, but you can't beat the ride. Yes. Wasting your time pissing them off is just going to make it worse.
No. Best to be quiet.
Yep. Yeah. Because, if you get them rattled and, you never know what could happen. They could wind up shooting you.
The only thing we suggest is they don't consent to any searches or seizures. Yeah. Just don't consent. They can still do it, but by you saying I'm not consenting, you're protecting your legal rights. And by the way, a reminder to everybody out there, if you're going to invoke the Fifth Amendment, you must verbally invoke it. You can't just sit there quietly and not answer questions. You've got to say, "I'm not answering questions under the Fifth Amendment." You've got to do that. Otherwise, this was a recent ruling a couple years ago. Otherwise, they can use your silence against you. You've got to say why you're being silent.
Yeah, and I tell that to every class of new gun owners that I speak to. I tell them, I say, there's no more of this, "I want my mouthpiece, I want my lawyer" bull crap anymore. Yeah, it's been ruled that you have to be able to articulate your rights, and until you have you haven't, basically. So that's why we give them cards that invokes their 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights for them. You'd be surprised the thousands and thousands of people that are getting their license to carry. They're gun owning people and everything that I've asked, "What are your 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights? Can anyone in this class answer me?" Thousands and thousands of people. Not one time have I gotten anybody to be able to answer me. Not once.
Our schools don't teach any of that stuff anymore. Any of the stuff dealing with government, they're not teaching that anymore. People aren't taught all this stuff. It's intentional, guys. I'm sorry to say it, but it's intentional.
Yeah, it's sad.
We should never tolerate this, but there we are.
But yeah, where was I going with that?
Well, it's good you're educating them on it.
Yeah. I was going somewhere with that. I can't remember, but anyways, yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah, so but that's what I tell them is, I'm like, so if you can't, if you don't, even if you do know your rights, it's best to have them written down. Your 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights, especially, have them written down and invoke them by handing the officer that piece of paper. Because after you just shot somebody and you can't even remember your freaking last name, you're probably not going to remember your 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights to be able to invoke them in the first place.
Yeah, and the police automatically get 2 or 3 days before they ask them any questions about a shooting.
Exactly.
They'll come at you right away. You're supposed to be putting pressure on you to answer right away. When an officer does it, the other officer's saying, "Shh, you don't have to say anything right now." They would never tell us that. So we have to know that.
Yeah.
We have to know that.
This federal agent that I train with, he explains it in a really funny way. He says this is what adrenaline does to people. He says this is why you don't talk to 911 more than what you're supposed to say, and this is why you don't talk to the police. He's like, because this is generally what happens. You call 911 and they're like, "What happened?" You're like, "There was this guy that was 7 foot tall and he was on top of me with a 12-inch knife and he was trying to stab me and I shot him 3 times." Then the police show up and there's a 3-foot circus midget curled up in the corner with a 2-inch blade that's been shot 15 times. Adrenaline plays tricks on you.
Yeah, it could definitely do that. The gentleman I train with, he always tells me, anytime you're in the situation, know everything you got. He said, make sure you remember how many rounds you fired, how many magazines you're carrying, what type of ammunition it was, because even if they don't arrest you right there on the spot, it's everything you're going to need in court. And you better have your ducks in a row, because in court, they can easily trick you up and get you to mistake what happened at that particular instance. And just throw you right under the bus and get yourself locked up real quick.
That's why you keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, and that's another. I mean, like, I haven't been in a whole lot of shooting incidents. I've had guns pulled on me a few times. I've had to shoot once, and I've had a lot of life or death experience, like close to serious adrenaline pumping situations in my life. And one thing that never changes, how you handle situations does get better and better. But one thing that never changes is when your adrenaline goes that hard, you can never remember the sequence in which the events happen. Things always get mixed up. And I think that's another part of why police are given 3 days, is because it doesn't matter how many times you've been through it. Our brains are not made to be able to do that. They drop everything. That's why people, urinate themselves and defecate themselves. Their body just releases everything that it doesn't need. And as well as their memory, it doesn't, you don't remember what happened before what, and it never makes sense. Yeah. And it never will.
Yeah. Your goal is to survive. Your brain is in survival mode. Remembering what happened has got nothing to do with survival.
Yeah.
It's like a real vision and hearing dropout, all that stuff that you don't really need goes away.
Yeah, and it's a damn good reason to not speak.
But yeah, I mean, he always makes a good point. Like you see all these guys training in competition shooting where they just drop the magazine right out of their gun, let it hit the ground, blah blah blah. He always drives home the point. That's not a good thing to do. Take that magazine and put it in your pocket, and then put your other magazine in there, so that way you have a more definitive round count. Because when it comes to court and everything else, and you're protecting yourself after you've protected yourself, those answers are going to be very critical in a court case.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got another question out there from Armament and Axes. He wants to know what everybody's thought is on carry insurance, like USCCA and US Law Shield.
Yeah.
There we go. That's all I got to say.
We know where Josh stands on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a rep for Texas Law, U.S. Law Shield, so not that I'm partial or anything, but I'm going to say U.S. Law Shield.
By the way, VCDL has a very thorough analysis of all the companies out there, including Law Shield, on our website. And so that's somewhere that the person goes, vcdl.org. If you go there, I think it's in the far right-hand menu. There's a pop-up or menu pops down, and you can find a comparison of them. And there's some really good things out there. And Law Shield.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. And, a lot of different groups offer a lot of different things. And, I think you just need to pick out which group you feel offers what your needs are. So absolutely.
But you should have something.
Yeah, get something. Get something.
Well, I learned about, I had a lawyer explaining what happens with bonds. I had no idea how bonds work. Once I learned, it was like, whoa, definitely need to have some kind of protection there.
Yeah.
$500,000 bond, you got to come up with 50. They're going to keep $50,000 of that. So, that's a lot of money flying around. You better have somebody like Law Shield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are right at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, 9 o'clock. Your
Those of us in the real world.
All right. Well, I know we got a little bit of Jordan's background. Phillip, what was your background? We didn't get to that question.
Well, I in Illinois. I grew up in Illinois, and I had BB guns up there, and and stuff when I was 8 years old or so, and I moved to Texas, and I got a master's degree in computer science, but I was also interested in police work, so I became a volunteer deputy sheriff in Bexar County, which is the county around San Antonio, for 6 years. I was glad I did that. I learned a lot, and I enjoyed helping people. It was a great experience, and it really paid off for what I do now, that kind of knowledge that I gained. But I did learn one thing, too, is that as a police officer, people think you know all about guns. And let me tell you, back in those days in the 70s, if somebody would have handed me a 1911, I wouldn't have known where to begin to unload that gun or to use it. I was not trained on any of that. Now it's a different world. But that's and then I got involved in gun rights once I learned how I'd been lied to about the Second Amendment and so forth over the years, and decided that I didn't want other people to be suckered into not understanding their rights.
All right, and they're asking again, where did you say you could find the comparisons on the carry insurance?
Yeah, it's VCDL, as in Virginia Citizens Defense League.org. And hold on, I'm bringing up our website over here. Let me give them more accurate guidance here real quick. All right, so you go to vcdl.org, and of course this thing is loading slowly here. And on the right-hand side, the last menu, which I can't see my own screen right now on this, that menu, if you click there, you'll come down and you'll see a list of things, including a comparison of all the various, a nice table. We went through extensive queries. Okay, it finally came up. So you want to go under resources. There's a menu item called resources on the upper right part of the screen, and come down to legal plan comparison. That's the second to last entry. And when you click on that, up comes a table you can scroll through, and it gives you all questions and answers for all of them and how they answered. And these were thoughtful questions. We spent a lot of time with these companies. So this has been recommended across the country for people to go look at this. We did such good work on it.
Mm-hmm.
Right on, excellent. Jordan, now I know the GOA has been working with a lot of different YouTube channels and putting out like discount codes for joining the GOA. Can I make my discount code to add $5 more to the charge of the membership fee? Give you guys $5 more rather than take $5 away from you?
If that's what you want to do, I think we can work that out. I mean, if that's how you want to do it, I think we can work that out. So yeah, I'll have to get that over to you.
Right on. Yeah, because I mean, it's nice to get a discount and all, but for me, like when I joined the GOA, I could have used any YouTube channel's discount I wanted, but I'd rather pay the full price. So I'm looking at it like, these guys need more money, not less money, to be able to fight the battles that they're fighting. So that's why I'm like, hey, yeah, let's make it so if you use my code, you pay $5 more.
Okay, well, we'll get that worked out. And I hate asking for money. It's not something we want to do. But our goal at GOA is to work ourselves out of a job. I work at GOA full time. They pay me a salary. It's not a huge salary. but I do it because I love it. But everyone at GOA, our goal is to repeal every gun control law in the books. You know, it's a tall ask, you know, but that's what we want to work towards, and to work ourselves out of a job so I can do something else for a living one day, if that happens in my lifetime. So that's where our hearts are at.
And let me plug them on this as well. That like our own organization, we don't drive you crazy for money. You know, as you know, there's an organization out there that will drive you absolutely bananas. No pun there, Scott, but drive you crazy
Right.
over money. And we're not like that, and GOA is not like that. Yes, we both need money, but that's not the goal. We're not out here to make money. We're out here to put ourselves out of work, as Jordan said.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a good goal right there. Definitely a good goal. And actually, I think when I joined the VCDL, I paid extra money in towards my membership fee that was above the cost of what the membership fee was as well.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a problem. I mean, I got to help support the guys who help fight for our rights every day when I can't be out there, you know, fighting for those rights myself. So.
Yeah, you got to earn a living just like everybody else, you know. You got to feed your family.
Indeed. Well, all right. We've gone a little bit past the 10 o'clock hour. These guys have probably been the greatest two guests I could ever have on the show. Not sure if I could ever top this show, but we'll carry on. We'll still do one every month. So I definitely thank you guys for coming on. As always, it's always a pleasure talking with both of you gentlemen. So I hope everybody out there in the side chat got to ask the questions they wanted to ask and got some information that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten in most respects. But yeah, I mean, it's been a good show. I definitely want to thank you guys immensely for taking the time out and, you know, sharing your knowledge and things with us tonight.
Scott and Josh, I had a blast. So thanks for having me on. This was fun, and it was great seeing Jordan out there and have a chance to talk to him again.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on, and it was a great time.
All right, Jordan. Chris from Armament Axes says hello.
Oh, hey there.
Oh, all right. Anybody, Josh, you got any final closing thoughts or anything?
No, just happy to be here. Good to meet you guys and all that good stuff. Yeah, I don't got nothing to say. I'm happy with everything we said. So.
Well, all right. With that, thanks for stopping by, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed the show and have fun.